Congresswoman Jackie Speier was injured 38 years ago when she accompanied her Congressman Leo Ryan, her boss, to Guyana to investigate the Jonestown situation there. And Congresswoman Speier was shot 5 times on that trip, but she survived. And she is now here with us, Congresswoman Jackie Speier of California. Congresswoman, I think very few people know that you endured violence like this in your past. Can you tell us what happened on that day, November 18th, 1978?
Well, Congressman Ryan had made that trip because many of his constituents had loved ones, younger children, young adult children, who had gotten involved in this church in San Francisco called the People's Temple. The Reverend Jim Jones, as he was called, then took about 900 of his congregation to Jonestown, created a commune there, and Congressman Ryan decided to go down there and find out if they were being held against their will. Over the course of 24 hours, that became very obvious. Many people wanted to leave. We were with many of these people at the airstrip. Unbeknownst to us, a tractor trailer with 7 gunmen came and started shooting. Congressman Ryan was shot 45 times, the first congressman assassinated in the line of duty. I was shot 5 times on that airstrip and left there for 22 hours without medical attention. So I endured 10 surgeries, 2 months in the hospital, and many years of rehabilitation. So I have just the greatest empathy for Steve Scalise and his wife and children. And I think this Congress needs to recognize that we have an obligation to all those who have gone before us and done things that have been heroic and who oftentimes are forgotten. So Congressman Ryan was a remarkable human being and should always be remembered for what he did for his constituents.
Oh my gosh, Congresswoman, and so are you. I mean, this story is so dramatic. You know, when we spoke on Wednesday to the Republican congressmen who were part of this baseball game and they talked about the ambush, you know, the police down there say that it took them 3 minutes to get to the ball field. But the congressmen or senators like Rand Paul described it as feeling like an eternity. You know, to hear the gunshots and not to hear the sirens yet, they described it as feeling like an eternity. The idea that you endured 22 hours being left for dead, it's impossible to get our minds around what that experience was like for you.
Well, it was a harrowing experience. It has shaped my life in many ways. I remember very vividly being lifted from the Guyana aircraft onto the U.S. medevac plane. And I've told this story many times. It was like someone wrapped me in the American flag. And there's never a time that I sing the national anthem or make the Pledge of Allegiance that I don't take myself back to that moment and recognize how lucky we are to live in this country.
So what was last night's ball game like for you? What have these past 48 hours been like for you with your personal history?
Well, I just ache for Steve and his family and his children. I mean, Father's Day is Sunday, and his 2 kids are going to be with him in the hospital and hopefully able to give him the kind of succor that he needs to rally, and it sounds like he is. But he is in for a long recovery, and it is it's something that we should recognize and be very supportive of him. It is a horrific experience to go through. I was in the line of fire for, you know, nanoseconds. When you think of our men and women who go and defend us abroad and realize that they're under fire every day, the whole length of time that they're in service, it's very compelling, and that's why I feel so passionately about making sure our veterans have all the resources they need.
Understood. And so everyone for the past 48 hours on Capitol Hill has been talking about how urgently we need unity, how to stop this toxic partisanship that we've all been experiencing in this toxic climate. But, you know, it's hard. I mean, I think that people revert to the mean, no pun intended. What do you think the answer is for how to preserve this current feeling of unity?
Well, I hope it's not just words. I do feel very strongly that the effort underway right now to sabotage Bob Mueller, to somehow throw mud at him, is reprehensible. This is a man who has served his country in war, who received a Purple Heart, a Bronze Star with Valor, and the Vietnamese Cross of Gallantry. This is a man who spent years as the FBI director, has been called by both sides of the aisle as a straight shooter. And now there are efforts underway to somehow suggest that he isn't up to the task. I mean, come on. If we're really going to talk about unity, let this investigation run its course. And I would say to the President of the United States, stop tweeting and stop using the vitriolic language and stop attacking Americans. This is not what this country is about.
Congresswoman Jackie Speier, thank you very much for sharing your personal harrowing story with us.